Discover the amazing transformation, a little girl's heartfelt plea to her single dad revealed. Daisy's heart raced as she clutched her science project in a tangle of nervous fingers. The cardboard cut out of a solar system, adorned with sparkly stars and vibrant planets, shimmered under the fluorescent lights of her classroom. Yet, when her teacher dismissed her work as unremarkable, the words echoed in her mind, unremarkable, just like her. She felt a pressing weight in her chest, an aching loneliness that whispered, "You're just not enough." The thought gnawed at her heart. She wanted to show her father, Tom, that she had dreams worth hearing. As the sun set over their small Midwestern town, Tom trudged home from the auto shop. Exhaustion soaked into his bones, stinging like the grease that stained his hands. He loved Daisy, loved providing for her, yet each missed school play, each overlooked science fair, gnawed at his conscience. Was he a good dad? His mind spun with the day's fatigue, but tonight something felt off. He sensed Daisy's distress brewing beneath the surface. In her room, Daisy sat on the edge of her bed, fresh tears cascading as she scribbled a letter to her dad. "Please, Daddy, tell me I'm special," she wrote, pouring her heart onto the paper until her thoughts blurred with tears. If only he could see the spark behind her quirky ideas. It was all she wanted, his approval. Later that night, Tom found her letter, the ink slightly smudged. With each word he read, his chest tightened. Her plea pierced through layers of exhaustion and guilt, unveiling fears he buried deep. The aspirations he had relinquished for a stable income haunted him. He had wanted to inspire minds, especially Daisy's. But how could he, when exhaustion left him barely coherent? The desire to be a role model waged war with the pressures of their financial reality. As school days slipped by, Daisy started speaking out in class, sharing her creative ideas. But voices turned cruel. Classmates scoffed, called her weird. The cuts went deep as she wrestled with a spiraling sense of despair. Was there even a place for her in a world that seemed to favor conformity? Unbeknownst to her, Tom noticed her struggle, heart aching as he thought of ways to protect her from that pain. But in shielding her, he erected walls that only separated them further, both feeling the weight of unspoken fears. Misunderstandings grew, feeding a rift that left them both adrift in their shared silence, wrapped in loneliness. With the school science fair approaching, Daisy's excitement was overshadowed by dread. Those glittering stars began to dim. Would her unique project ever shine in a world quick to judge? All she could think about was how Tom, with his doubting gaze, might feel even worse if she failed. But deep within her flickered a fragile flame, tenacious yet terrified. Would her moment not only illuminate her aspirations, but restore something they both desperately needed? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That evening, with her project displayed tentatively on the table, Daisy's breath hitched. She felt her father's presence in the room, but as applause echoed, so did his fears. What would it mean for his ambition? As the audience began to notice her work, the pressure rose. Would they acknowledge the intricacies she poured her heart into, or would they turn away, just like her classmates? Uncertainty clawed at her as Tom wrestled with the demons of his own past, feeling the weight of ambition and fear consume him. It was a pivotal moment, a recognition of the walls they built, and the distance they couldn't afford to let linger much longer. Could they converge in this storm of vulnerability, or would it deepen the divide permanently? Daisy's hands trembled as she stood before her project, the gentle buzz of the crowd fading into a muted background noise. Her heart pounded with both excitement and dread. The eyes of her classmates flickered between her and the project, the colorful planets rotating in their orbits, the black expanse of space painted around them. She had envisioned it all carefully. Yet, the subtle murmur of doubt echoed in her mind. What if they only saw the weird girl and not her vision? Across the room, Tom leaned against a wall, his heart ached with pride swirled in guilt. He wished he could be more than an observer. It was nearly unbearable to watch Daisy stand there, vulnerable, holding her breath as she anticipated validation that felt painfully elusive. He saw her fragile flame struggling to shine but knew he hadn't fueled it the way she needed. He had to be there for her. As the judging began, Daisy took a deep breath and stepped forward. It was no longer just a project, it was her voice squirming to be acknowledged. "This is my solar system model," she began, her voice wavering at first but soon gaining strength. With every word, she painted the connection of her universe to her dreams, wrapping it in her innocence and deep longing for validation. Each explanation of the planets became a piece of her heart revealing itself to the world, unencumbered by fear for the moment. She was unshakable. Tom, his heart racing, felt the weight of her unguarded honesty. Each explanation she provided was woven with the essence of a daughter desperate for both connection and acknowledgement. He was reminded of how he had once dreamed of being a teacher, someone who inspired and encouraged. The pangs of regret nudged at him. What held him back from taking the leap into mentoring? Perhaps he had carried the burden for too long, one that was now suffocating his daughter too. The applause that followed was not just noise, it echoed as validation. In that moment, with her classmates and judges clapping, Daisy closed her eyes, letting the sound wash over her. The affirmation kindled her flame. But it also ignited something in Tom, the realization that this moment was not a culmination but a beginning. They both needed to confront their fears, to acknowledge their shared vulnerability, and to shed the insecurities that had kept them locked in silence. Yet as Daisy basked in her triumph, a whisper of uncertainty gnawed at Tom. Could he step into the role of an active participant in her journey? What did he truly want for Daisy, and how was he ready to face his own darkness? The aftermath of the science fair left Daisy soaring with confidence even as she sensed a shift in her father. He appeared more contemplative, perhaps even conflicted. It was a pivotal juncture for both of them where vulnerability met the potential for growth. Later that night, the two sat together on the couch, an old blanket draped over their legs. The silence was thick with unsaid words, fragile and daunting. Daisy turned to her father, her heart racing. "Dad, do you think I'm enough? More than just unremarkable?" The air shifted, a question hung in the balance poised to alter their dynamic. Tom's eyes met hers, and for what felt like an eternity, he struggled internally with his response. The weight of his inaction pressed heavily, but the opportunity for change shimmered in the light of her earnest gaze. Would he admit how he felt about their distance? Would he risk being vulnerable too, for her sake? The time had come for Tom to face the truth, a revelation that would reshape not only their father-daughter bond but their individual paths as they confronted their innermost fears. The moment of truth was upon them. Tom held Daisy's gaze, the world around them fading into hushed silence. Her question hung in the air, dense with unspoken fears and hopes. He could feel the threads of their relationship, once so tightly intertwined, now fraying around the edges. Did she need a parent, or did she need something far more difficult to give, unconditional belief? He exhaled slowly, tasting the bittersweet combination of love and regret. "Daisy," he began, his voice steady but laced with vulnerability, "you are more than enough. You are extraordinary." He could see a flicker of hope ignite in her eyes, a small flame of reassurance that came from someone who felt unseen and unheard for too long. Yet, was it enough? Would it illuminate the path they needed to traverse together? As he spoke, Tom felt a strange mix of liberation and dread. His journey towards confronting his own insecurities mirrored Daisy's unwinding tension. Each time he choked back the words he should say, he realized he was clinging tightly to his fears, much like Daisy had clung to her doubts during her presentation. He needed to navigate these tumultuous waters beside her. "Daisy," he continued, "I've been watching you grow, and every single day you amaze me. It's just sometimes, I feel like I'm not the dad you need." The admission wasn't easy, but the words poured out, the dam of silence breaking. "I haven't been present, and I want to change that." Her brow furrowed slightly, as if she were processing layers of complexity. "But what is stopping you?" Tom wrestled with the truth of her question. His mind raced back to moments when he had prioritized his work over their time together, brushing aside her needs in favor of his fears of inadequacy. "I've been afraid to let you down. I wasn't sure how to support you while trying to find my path." Daisy shifted closer, her small frame reminding him of the vulnerability wrapped in the heart of a child. "But, Dad, how can you find your path if you don't even try?" Her eyes glimmered with wisdom beyond her years. She was challenging him to act, to embrace the world alongside her. In that moment, something shifted within Tom. He realized that the foundation of his hesitance rested not only in his own self-doubt but also in a desperate yearning to keep her safe from his struggles. The awareness struck him hard. Embracing their imperfections could foster the growth he craved for both of them. Keeping this newfound resolve close, Tom decided to reclaim his ambitions, no longer as an isolated observer but as an active, integral part of Daisy's journey. He would step outside of his safe bubble and seek new experiences, starting with engaging in her interests rather than retreating into his protective shell. "I'll join you," he declared suddenly, a wave of determination coursing through him. "Let us do something together that sparks both our interests. You want to explore the universe? I want to learn too." Daisy's face broke into a smile, a genuine cheer lighting up her features. "Really?" "Yes. Can we make a new project?" "Absolutely," he laughed, feeling lighter as hopes coalesced into action. They tossed around ideas for their next project, perhaps a study on black holes or the possibility of life on Mars. Each idea brought a sense of exhilaration that broke off pieces of their previous insecurities. In their excitement, he realized how much she needed him to evolve alongside her. This was not merely about mentoring or teaching, it was a partnership to rediscovering both their worlds. Their connection was morphing into something powerful, blossoming with potential. Yet the unresolved threads of Tom's personal growth lingered just below the surface. Could he fully embrace the tumultuous journey ahead? Perhaps the next step required confronting someone from his past, an old mentor who had once inspired him but had since left him lost. He glanced back at Daisy, her energy radiating innocence and determination. A plan formed, tantalizing and formidable. It would demand courage, yet it also held the promise of connection and growth. What lay on the horizon could renew not just their relationship but Tom's sense of purpose. As they began to outline their project, he felt a sense of urgency bubble beneath the surface. He must act soon, but was he prepared for the confrontation that awaited him? As Tom and Daisy dove into their project, the echo of her words became a powerful mantra in his mind. Each idea they generated sent electric jolts of possibility through him, a stark contrast to the solitude he'd felt in his self-imposed exile of comfort. They sketched stars and planets on sheets of paper, transforming thoughts into tangible designs, bridging the gap between their aspirations and realities. Yet, amid the laughter and creativity, an undercurrent of anxiety rippled through Tom. The looming confrontation with his mentor cast a shadow, reminding him of a past filled with unfulfilled dreams. He hadn't spoken to Marcus in years, a silence wrapped in resentment and self-doubt. That void of communication had festered, a reminder of the drive he once had. Now, faced with the prospect of reconnecting, Tom felt a mix of dread and longing. "Hey, Dad," Daisy's voice broke through his thoughts, her brow raised in curiosity as they took a break from their work. "Are you okay? You seem distracted." A fleeting desire to hide his turmoil surfaced, but he fought against it. "I'm just thinking about how far we've come today." "But you're right. I'm also thinking about someone I need to reach out to." "Is it about your work?" she asked, her tone neutral but focused. "It is, a bit." The truth was too layered to unravel completely. "It's about taking the next step in my own journey. There's someone I used to look up to. I need to speak with him." "Why don't you?" she encouraged, the spark of determination in her eyes igniting Tom's own resolve. He nodded slowly, her unwavering belief in him fueled something deep inside. "I think I will," he said, but the thoughts spiraled again. What if Marcus had moved on, or worse, what if he didn't want to hear from him? But Daisy, unperturbed by the weight of Tom's inner conflict, simply smiled and backtracked to their drawings. "Can we name the black hole after me?" Her innocent suggestion sparked a warmth within him, grounding him amidst the chaos of his thoughts. "Yes. The Daisy Hole it is." Tom laughed, allowing her joy to soften his worries. Her exuberance brought clarity to his mind, solidifying his desire to step out of his comfort zone no matter how jagged that path might feel. But just then, her enthusiasm posed another puzzle. How could he inspire that same spark within himself? As they returned to brainstorming, Tom felt the layers of his fear slowly peeling away. Marcus had been instrumental in shaping his early career, igniting ambitions he had allowed to cool. If he could channel the same energy he saw in Daisy, perhaps he could reclaim what he thought was lost. A mentor's perspective may reignite something powerful, serving both as a guide and a turning point. A sense of urgency began to bubble in Tom's chest again as they crafted fanciful images of space. Each stroke of the pen represented an inch closer to discovering facets of himself long hidden. But could he summon the courage to reach out and bridge the years of silence? Could he walk into that meeting prepared, cutting through the debilitating doubts that had taken root? Daisy interrupted his thoughts again with an innocent question, pulling him back into the moment. "Do you think we'll discover life on Mars? What if it's real? What if they're just waiting for us?" "Maybe," he responded, truly intrigued by her vision. "Or maybe they are curious about us too." Their laughter filled the air, but Tom's heart raced with a different kind of anticipation. He glanced at Daisy, who once again challenged him to believe in possibilities, with a trust in her eyes that ignited an emboldened resolve in his heart. Renewed in questioning, he knew the time had come to reach into the past. As they cleaned up their workspace, Tom's mind whirred with the prospect of making that call to Marcus. He could feel the weight of unresolved emotions, but doubt started to diminish. Would the courage he was cultivating be enough? Could he tap into the transformative potential for himself just as he was helping Daisy discover her own, in a sphere of uncertainty and excitement? Tom understood they were both set to explore unexplored horizons, together. But before he could plunge into that leap, something else unexpectedly stirred within him. There was a veiled truth waiting to be uncovered, something he had buried deeply about his relationship with Marcus. What if facing that truth required unraveling secrets that could shift the balance of everything he thought he knew? The conversation that loomed ahead felt even more daunting than ever. Could he brave not only those old insecurities but find the strength to challenge them? Tom found himself confronting the evening sky, a swirl of indigo hues fading into deeper shades as night crept in. Each star mirrored the thoughts racing through his mind, delicate and scattered yet burdened with the gravity of unspoken dialogues. He took a deep breath, the crisp air grounding him, offering clarity amidst the swirling chaos. The transition from day to night echoed the transition he was considering in his own life, the leap from indecision to action. He couldn't shake the image of Daisy's innocent exuberance, her belief that their dreams were within reach. The thought of reaching out to Marcus loomed large, tangled with hope and dread. Would their connection be rekindled, or had the years of silence forged an insurmountable gap? "Dad, can we make a map of the stars next?" Daisy's call brought him back to the present, her enthusiasm unyielding. Her art supplies lay scattered, remnants of their earlier burst of creativity. He watched her unravel the colored pencils as if she were unveiling futures, each color vibrant with potential. "Absolutely," he said, a smile breaking through the weight in his chest. As they began to draw, Daisy described her own constellations, her imagination running wild. Each tale she spun resonated with a simplicity he yearned to reclaim. With every stroke of the pencil, he watched her discover her own light, and it ignited something buried within him. It was as if she were coaxing him to revisit his own aspirations, the dreams that once seemed limitless. He felt an inkling of resolve build, but the specter of Marcus still lurked, daunting and mysterious. After their artistic endeavor, as they sat surrounded by scattered sketches, Tom felt the urge to share something deeper with Daisy. "You know, not every star shines the same way," he started, hesitating. "Some need a little more time to find their light." Daisy looked up, curiosity bold in her eyes. "Like people?" she asked. "Exactly," he answered, her innocent wisdom striking him. Sometimes, we have to reconnect to rediscover that light. He took a moment, inhaling deeply. I have someone I need to reach out to, someone who helped me find my own spark once. Is it the same person you've been thinking about? She asked, her concern palpable. The faith she had in him sparked the courage he needed, but he noticed how the weight of uncertainty still clung to him. Yeah, it is, he admitted, a torrential mix of fear and yearning flooding his thoughts. But what if it's too late? What if I've waited too long? It's never too late to try, she said, wisdom beyond her years surfacing in her tone. Her words coiled around his heart, offering warmth and nurturance, their conversation an anchor amid encroaching storms. Do you really believe that? He queried, a hesitance lingering as he wrestled with self-doubt. Of course. How else would the stars know to shine if no one looked for them? Daisy's face lit up with energy, her spirit unyielding. She had a point, and he turned that thought over in his mind as if it were a new constellation that he began to formulate a plan in his mind, crafting the words he would say to Marcus. Every potential phrase felt like it could either build a bridge or slam a door shut, and the risk weighed heavy on his heart. Resentments were woven tightly into the fabric of their past, but what if all that needed to unravel was his own vulnerability? That night, as Tom lay in bed replaying the day's events, he realized the truth was shifting within him. Epiphanies emerged. This was more than just a call, it was a necessary acknowledgement of his own worth. Reconnecting with Marcus meant transcending the mistakes of his past, and perhaps even forgiving himself in the process. The deeper he delved into this revelation, the more he recognized that facing Marcus was an act of reclamation not just for a past mentor but for himself. He wanted to position himself as a man willing to reclaim his power and purpose, with Daisy's unwavering trust lighting the way ahead. Just before sleep overtook him, Tom contemplated the choice before him. Would he continuously allow fear to dictate his actions, or would he embrace the uncomfortable challenge, determined to break the silence? The calendar on his desk ticked onward, each passing second serving as a reminder that opportunity waits for no one. The pressing conversation felt like a knight's gauntlet he had to run, where each step forward was a step towards confronting that deep-seated truth. But as dawn approached, a new question surfaced ominously. What if the reunion with Marcus unearthed buried resentments he hadn't anticipated? Could healing flourish amidst unresolved conflicts, or would the past lash back and hinder his growth? Tom clung to the last fragments of resolve as tomorrow loomed ahead, ready to challenge more than just a voice on the other end of the line. He was determined to confront the shadows that had loomed in silence for too long. The morning sun peeked through the blinds, casting elongated shadows across Tom's room as he lay awake. His mind felt like a whirlwind of thoughts, each fragment battling for attention as he mentally rehearsed what he would say to Marcus. The soft murmur of Daisy's laughter drifted in from the kitchen, grounding him briefly, reminding him of the warmth that lay ahead, even amidst the uncertainty. As he pushed himself out of bed, a sensation of determination began to take root in his gut. He had spent too long shadowed by fear of what the past held. Today would not be about retreating, it would be about moving forward into the uncharted terrain of reconnection. However, doubt slinked alongside him, whispering that facilitating a peaceful encounter was akin to unlocking a Pandora's box. In the kitchen, he watched Daisy bounce across the room, a vibrant contrast to his own inner turmoil. Her simple joys, cheerful breakfast conversations, the hum of her favorite song playing softly reminded him that life continuously presented opportunities for growth. "Can we go to the park later?" she asked, her hopeful eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Of course," he replied, smiling despite the gnawing anxiety. "But first, I need to do something important." "What kind of important?" Daisy probed, genuine curiosity brightening her face. Tom hesitated, unsure of how to strip the complexity of his mission down to terms she could understand. "I need to speak to a friend, someone I haven't seen in a long time. It's a little scary, but it might help us both." "Scary?" Daisy tilted her head, trying to decipher his emotions. "Why scary?" "Because," he began, searching for the right words, "when you talk with someone after a long time, you're not always sure what will happen next. Sometimes, it brings up old feelings." But it can also help us feel better. Daisy nodded slowly, her brow furrowing in thought as she processed this. I think it'll be okay. You'll be brave. Just like the stars you told me about. Her words struck fiercely, igniting Tom's spirit. Her unwavering faith in him acted as a balm against his doubts and weariness. He realized that if he wanted to create a more profound connection with Marcus, it required vulnerability, not just a reunion but a transformation of how he perceived himself. After breakfast, he headed to his makeshift office, the clutter of reports and bills momentarily fading from his mind as he sat at his desk where a notepad awaited him. With each word he wrote to Marcus, he began turning his apprehensive thoughts into a clear message. He focused on the shared moments that had once bonded them and acknowledged the pain that followed. Creating that message morphed from a daunting task into a cathartic process. He was no longer just a man trying to apologize for the past but someone intent on reclaiming a part of himself he had lost. The act of writing down his thoughts felt monumental. Each stroke felt like he was chipping away at the walls that had imprisoned his emotional truth. He questioned which facets of himself he would share, his vulnerabilities, his regrets, and, most importantly, the kind of man he aspired to be moving forward. Once he finished the letter, the anxiety cloaking him faded, replaced by a flickering hope. Time would reveal what Marcus thought, but he knew the outcome didn't solely rest with his old friend. Healing began within himself. He understood that rekindling this connection wasn't about erasing the past but acknowledging it with honesty, allowing growth to take precedence in its place. As the afternoon wore on, anticipation surged within him. While he had not yet dialed Marcus's number, he already felt the weight lighten. Perhaps the journey ahead would not be fraught with the tensions he feared but instead pave the way for a deeper understanding of himself, one he wished to share with Daisy as they navigated their own personal journeys. Determined, Tom stood up, grabbing the phone and glancing at the contact saved under Marcus's name. Just as he began to dial, Daisy rushed in, her voice brightening the atmosphere. Can we go now? I'm ready, Dad. His heart swelled. He had promised Daisy a park visit, and he was eager not just for her joy but also because the more he embraced the present, the less room there was for fear. Even as they pulled away, Tom felt a duality, a flickering flame of excitement battling the remnants of dread. Would he do it today? Or would he wait until tomorrow? What awaited on the other side of that phone call loomed, and in that moment, it became clear. The real challenge would not be calling Marcus but confronting the truth about how far he was willing to evolve. Outside, the day rolled on, indifferent to his internal conflict, but Tom realized that each step he took echoed the beginning of a personal renaissance. As they reached the park, surrounded by laughter and the sight of blooming activity, he glanced back at his phone. And in that instant, he knew the time had come to face a conversation that could redefine everything. The park buzzed with energy as families filled the benches and children dashed about in laughter. Tom found a bench under the shade of a large oak tree, allowing himself a moment to breathe amidst Daisy's enthusiasm. Her small hands tugged at his, beckoning him to join her in the sea of vibrant chaos. He watched her run, her laughter soaring like small birds taking flight, and in that moment, Tom felt a push within him, a reminder of the synergy between nurturing joy and confronting fears. Sitting there, he became persuasive with himself, affirming that this day wasn't just about Daisy and the park but also about laying the groundwork for the next chapter of his life. The thought was daunting yet exhilarating. As he observed other parents interact with their children, he felt the stark reality of how distant he had drifted, not just from Marcus, but from his own sense of self. What had kept him tethered to the past was the fear of failing to confront it. He had allowed uncertainty to mold his identity, but he realized these visits to the park, these fleeting moments of happiness, were profound indicators of what he truly cherished: connection, growth, healing. "Dad! Look at that slide!" Daisy exclaimed, her eyes alight with the simple thrill of adventure. Her face shone with pure joy. As she bolted away, her small shoes barely touching the ground, Tom felt that familiar spark, a reminder that life was not only about confronting discomfort but also discovering joy within it. He allowed himself to immerse in the moment, cheering for her from the sidelines as she conquered the uneven ground to climb the slide. Yet, in the back of his mind, the phone sat heavy in his pocket. It was a tether to his past and a bridge to his future. Suddenly, eloquence surged through him. What if he framed the call not as a confrontation, but as a foundation for growth? After witnessing Daisy remind him of the need for connection, he began questioning his intentions. Would he approach Marcus with the same spirit he encouraged Daisy to embrace, one of hope and openness? In that instant, clarity struck. Making peace with the past required courage, but it also encouraged evolution. As the adrenaline of the park adventure filled the air, Tom realized he wasn't just seeking forgiveness from Marcus, he desired to explore who he could become if he fully embraced authenticity. When Daisy returned, out of breath and flushed with excitement, she slid next to him, curling under his arm. "Dad, can we go to the swings next?" "Absolutely," he replied, his heart swelling to reaffirm his commitment to being present, to living in the moment while also gesturing toward larger changes. Daisy swung high, and each upturn felt like a wind beneath Tom's aspirations. He observed how she reveled in each ascent, raising her arms triumphantly, a daring claim to the sky. As she called out, "I'm flying." Tom understood that courage was about overcoming fear, embracing vulnerability, and being willing to take leaps of faith. With each push she gained momentum, and likewise, his resolve grew. He recognized that this one call to Marcus could be like pushing off the ground. He had to trust in the lift and thrill of potential that awaited him. As they wrapped up at the park, he felt a sense of release. His mind danced with the possibilities. He was not only re-engaging with his past but also asserting himself into the narrative of his life anew. Returning home, the phone felt heavier, but in the best way possible, a conduit for change. He could almost hear Marcus' voice floating through the air, challenging him to take that leap. Tom paused in the doorway, just before stepping inside. In that moment, he made a decision not just to call Marcus but to prepare a space for forgiveness and discovery of new perspectives. "Tomorrow," he declared inwardly, "tomorrow I'll find my courage." Yet, as he closed the door behind him, he felt an unexpected tremor of doubt ripple through him. Would he really follow through? Would he be strong enough to handle what awaited? The very thought spiraled through him, igniting a sense of urgency. Just one more day of preparation, he murmured under his breath, knowing that tomorrow would demand the truest version of himself. As he glanced at his phone again, he could almost hear it calling to him, and the tension built within. He would make the call tomorrow, but what awaited him on the other end was an uncertain terrain and the potential for both confrontation and transformation. The narrative had only just begun to unravel, begging the question, would he have the strength to embrace whatever awaited him at the other end of the line? Morning light spilled into the room, illuminating the disheveled remnants of Tom's restless night. The phone lay on the bedside table like a ticking time bomb, a silent reminder of the day ahead. His resolve to call Marcus lingered in the air, both motivating and paralyzing. He sat up, running a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of possibility bearing down on him. He reflected on the previous day, the park, and Daisy's unabashed joy. What once felt like a burden now seemed like an opportunity for growth. She had pushed him toward clarity, igniting something he thought had long laid dormant. But for all the inspiration she provided, the hesitation was insistent, gnawing at the edges of his confidence. What if he failed to bridge the gap with Marcus? The fear clawed at him, tearing through his thoughts as he entered the kitchen. The coffee brewed slowly, each drip a countdown to a decision he knew he needed to make. He busied himself pouring a cup, trying to catalyze his thoughts into action. As he sipped the bitter liquid, he recalled conversations he had overheard between Marcus and their father, a series of jabs and bitter exchanges. It dawned on him that he had been participating in that cycle of conflict from the sidelines, refusing to step in, hoping the years would take care of the damage done. But time had passed, and what remained was only the echo of unaddressed grievances. Today, he would not allow fear to dictate his course. The phone buzzed again, the sound escalating his heart rate. His stomach churned as he reached for it, but instead of dialing, he opened the family album on his phone, searching for the last coherent connection with Marcus. Photographs of birthday parties and vacations flooded his memory with warmth and nostalgia. Each image played out like a fragment of a life once rich with camaraderie and shared joy. "Hey, Daisy," he called out, trying to focus the fractal edges of his unease. She came running into the kitchen, her pigtails bouncing, a picture of innocence. "Want to see some old family pictures with me?" He knew she wouldn't grasp the full depth of what that invitation meant, but it felt important to share a piece of their history. "Sure, Dad." Her enthusiasm lit a fire within him. As they flipped through the pictures together, Daisy marveled at the sight of her younger self, unaware of the shadow looming over her father's heart. With each shared memory, Tom felt a burgeoning hope that perhaps rekindling the past was not just about facing Marcus but also about sculpting a new, more vivid future. Daisy's finger traced over an image of Tom and Marcus arm in arm. "You looked happy," she noted, her innocence shining through the difficult layers of the moment. "You know what, Daisy? Happiness can be built again," he mused aloud, more to himself than to her. The ripple of realization swept through him. To foster happiness would require authenticity, communication, and most importantly, courage. Time slipped away, the weight of the decision still tangible. He looked back at Daisy, so unaware of the weighty nature of their discussion. "What do you think is the best way to talk to someone you don't see often? Someone you miss?" Daisy's eyes sparkled thoughtfully. "I think you should just tell them how you feel. Maybe they'll be happy too." If only it were that simple, Tom thought. But somewhere deep inside, he felt the gears shifting, loosening the tight grip of doubt that had shackled him. As they finished the stack of pictures, Tom felt a sense of clarity settle over him. Each return smile, each conversation in passing, nudged him closer to accountability. It wasn't just a call he needed to make. It was an opening, an invitation to mend something that had frazzled into silence. After Daisy went off to play, he returned to the phone, unable to ignore the dogged anticipation lingering in his chest. His thumb hovered over Marcus's name, the prospect of reclaiming connection both exhilarating and terrifying. But in that moment, he could almost hear Daisy's voice echoing in his ears, urging him on. Suddenly, just as he gathered the courage to hit call, his gaze caught sight of the park's playground through the window. The swing swayed gently in the breeze, beckoning him to face not only Marcus but whatever lay beyond their fractured relationship. Tom steadied his breath and took one more vital step in his journey toward transformation. He took out a sheet of paper, determined to pen down his feelings, a letter to Marcus, perhaps before making the call. As he picked up the pen, the weight of indecision transformed into palpable determination. As he began to write, a thought reverberated: what if Marcus had once longed for the same reconnection? Would that realization shift the conversation? The current chapter of his life was almost culminating, but he was still uncertain about the next. He was compelled to write with clarity, but the question swirled beneath: what if Marcus was ready for the candid conversation Tom sought? The ink flowed anyway, capturing his feelings, hopes, and fears as the world outside continued to pulse with life. The moment felt decisive, alive with possibility. Would this act liberate him, or could it further entrench the distance? The next call loomed on the horizon, both a countdown to liberation and a reckoning. Would the letter help bridge the unspoken void, or would it instead guard him from the very confrontation he wished to navigate? The sun began to dip beneath the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the room, where Tom remained absorbed in his letter. Each word felt like a thread pulling him further into the tapestry of his own emotional landscape. Despite the initial swirl of confusion, he sought to channel the essence of his thoughts clearly onto the page. He paused, pen hovering over the paper, and reflected on every nuance of their relationship, the bitterness of past exchanges overshadowed by memories of shared laughter. Uncertainty gnawed at him. He understood that writing was only a step. Piecing together a message that encapsulated all his feelings was a challenge that required as much emotional honesty as it did skill. Would Marcus perceive his transparency as an olive branch or a confrontation? Doubts replaced the clarity he first felt, and with them came a familiar urge to retreat. But what choice did he have? Backing down was no longer an option. With resolve, he scribbled down a few sentences to lay the groundwork. Dear Marcus, I've spent too long avoiding what lies between us. After watching Daisy grow and learning to embrace my own fears, I realize it's time to reach out. Each stroke of the pen revealed not just his discontent with the past but also a growing belief in his ability to change the narrative. As he sat back, allowing his thoughts to marinate, images of Marcus flooded his mind. He saw the harder edge in his brother's gaze but also the glimmers of vulnerability in fleeting moments. Somewhere within those conflicting emotions rested a person longing to reconnect just as Tom was. What if, beneath the misunderstanding, they could rediscover common ground? He closed his eyes briefly, letting the world wait as he explored these sentiments deeper. What had always felt like a boundary might in fact be a bridge waiting to be built. His hands shook slightly, revealing his trepidation, yet mingled with that tremor was a burgeoning strength, a resolve to face the issues that had long crippled him. As his thoughts formed a clearer picture, Tom recalled Daisy's innocent words and the wisdom behind them. Did love not thrive in honesty? Wouldn't Marcus also want, deep down, to reclaim the brotherly connection they once shared? Just as this realization crystallized, a pang of urgency filled him. Time wouldn't pause. Today might be one of many chances lost if he held on to fear. With new clarity, he resumed writing. I wonder if there's still a brother in you that wants to understand. Why don't we talk? I miss you, and I believe we can mend this. He felt warmth in expressing vulnerability, a stark contrast to the icy conversations of their past. Each line served not only as a gesture of accountability but also as an invitation to explore the uncharted territories of their relationship. The letter almost complete, it felt like a turning point, a moment teetering on the edge of transformation. He could send it, or he could hold it back. The fear flickered as the realization that change required action tugged at his thoughts. He couldn't expect Marcus to step into the light if he himself remained shrouded in fear. With a resolute breath, he signed the letter, sealing it with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Now, the phone call loomed closer than ever. What if Marcus didn't respond as he hoped? What if the walls of resentment were too high? He wrestled with doubt, but amid the war with his thoughts lay an undeniable truth. Real courage was confronting those fears. The phone perched nearby felt heavier than it did minutes ago, a weight that dared him to move. Before he could second-guess himself, he dialed Marcus's number, gripping the phone tightly as the line rang. Each beep echoed the duality of hope and anxiety. Would he emerge triumphant or defeated? And then, the call connected, and Tom steadied his breath, ready to embrace whatever awaited on the other end. Just as he prepared to speak, the possibility of rejection loomed large and daunting. But perhaps this would be the moment that changed everything, both for him and for Marcus. Would recognition spark understanding, or would silence speak louder than words? The moment of truth arrived, and Tom was on the precipice of transformation, one that he hoped would forge a new path for both brothers. The ringing stopped, and a voice emerged from the other end. Hello. It was Marcus, a name that had echoed both in Tom's past and his heart for too long. He felt a shiver run down his spine. This was it, the moment he feared yet craved. Hey, Marcus, it's Tom, he stuttered slightly, fighting the nearly overwhelming urge to retreat. The silence that followed felt like an eternity, each heartbeat thumping louder in his ears. Tom. Wow, it's been a while, Marcus replied, genuine surprise lacing his tone. Yeah, it has. Tom took a deep breath, steeling himself for the conversation ahead, aware that this was his opportunity to affix new meaning to the relationship he had neglected for years. I've been thinking a lot about our past and about how things ended between us. The words left a weighty pause in the air, and as the silence lingered, Tom could all but hear the clock ticking. After a moment, Marcus spoke again. I've thought about that too. There was an unmistakable sincerity in his voice now, an opening that Tom had almost given up hope for. Tom felt a rush of warmth bloom in his chest. Maybe this could change everything. I know it hasn't been easy, and I regret how we left things. I want to reconnect, if you're open to it. Why now? Marcus asked, the cautious edge clear. What's changed? Tom mulled over his response, recalling Daisy's resilience and the lessons learned. I've realized that avoiding the past won't help either of us. I've seen how important it is to confront our fears, and I want to take that step. Take that step with me, Marcus said softly. I miss our conversations. As the floodgates of vulnerability opened, Tom declared, I miss them too. I feel like I lost a part of myself when we stopped talking. And it's not easy to find that back without facing the truth, Marcus replied, echoing Tom's thought. They spent the next few minutes unraveling the years, acknowledging the resentment that had built barricades in place of the brotherhood they once cherished. Each word exchanged was as much a revelation as it was an act of healing. Tom could feel the distance dissipating, a reconnection forming through shared honesty. I've wanted to apologize, Tom continued, for not reaching out sooner, for letting our shared history fade into silence. It's okay, Marcus replied gently. We both contributed to the distance. What matters now is that we're trying to reconstruct it. Tom nodded, even though they were physically miles apart. This was no longer a conversation wrapped in veils of regret, this was a testament of growth. They spoke of dreams shattered, of paths redirected and the stark honesty of their lives. Tom shared how Daisy had unknowingly sparked his desire for both himself and his relationships to thrive. She taught me that bravery lies in confronting fear, and I want to embody that fully, he said, allowing clarity to usher in hope. And I want to encourage her to do the same. I hope we can guide each other going forward. I want that too, brother, Marcus replied. Let us rebuild this, one step at a time. They began to sketch out ideas not just for themselves but for a path forward together. The conversation shifted toward plans to meet, to forge new memories, to be present in each other's lives beyond the echoes of the past. These were promises grounded in accountability and determination. As the call wound to a close, Tom's heart swelled with a mix of relief and elation. The flood of anxiety that had gripped him for so long released its hold. Marcus' willingness to reconnect, to journey through the fog of their shared history, allowed Tom to reclaim so much of what he thought lost. Yes. It's time to make this right, Tom confirmed, his voice steady now, filled with newfound confidence. You're absolutely right, Tom, Marcus concluded with sincerity. Let us not waste this chance. Tom ended the call feeling lighter than he had in years, like a weight had been lifted. In that moment, he realized just how transformative vulnerability could be. He was no longer confined by the shadows of his past, nor defined by the mistakes made. He had taken a definitive step toward significant personal growth. Daisy entered the room, her bright smile illuminating the space around him. Dad, can we finish our project now? Of course. Tom replied, his heartbeat steadying in sync with the exuberance blooming inside him. A wave of energy surged through him as he settled beside her. Now, he could guide his daughter not only through the celestial wonders they were discovering together, but also through the human connections he was reclaiming. That night, as they worked side by side, Tom felt a profound sense of accomplishment wash over him. Through courageous steps, he had not only repaired the rift with Marcus but had woven deeper, healthier bonds into the fabric of his life. This was the beginning, the launchpad to explore uncharted territory, not just in the stars but in the depths of human connection. Tom embraced the warmth of the moment, knowing he was stepping into an era defined by genuine interaction, adventure, and an unshakable bond with both Daisy and Marcus. And as they finished coloring the last few stars on their project, he reflected on the profound transformation that had taken place within him. He had begun to reclaim his sense of self, unlocking layers of potential he hadn't known existed. He had not only achieved closure but forged a new path filled with promise. Emboldened, Tom realized he was not only a father but a man on a journey of growth, leap by leap. The vast cosmos ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in years, he welcomed the possibility of all it could hold. Now, dear audience, it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss out on more exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and keep this content thriving. Comment below with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this ending. Lastly, share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to witness this journey of personal overcoming. Don't wait even one more second to show your support and join us on this mission to connect lives through powerful storytelling.